Hello and welcome back to another edition of the Movie Trap. Round 2 of 3 for this. Our actors playing multiple roles session of this show. If you are a first-time listener, let me start off by saying my name is Zach Powers. As always, I am joined by...
Russell Carlson. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, it's...
Chris Boruff.
Yeah. That would have been as smooth as we have ever done. So if you're a first-time listener to this show, very quickly, basically, yes, this is a show where 3 straight white men talk about movies, something you have heard constantly every moment you've been awake since the year 2006, at least. But at least we have a gamified element. Each session of 3 episodes follows a certain theme or suggestion by one of the hosts. We each submit one movie within that theme or suggestion. In this case, it is actors in multiple roles. And at the end of those 3 sessions, we vote on which of us presented the best movie, the one we liked the most, basically, all the while having given each other a few bonus points during the proceedings. And then the winner of the final round chooses the next theme for the following 3 episodes. And as I said...
That's right. Yeah, and it basically, so since this theme was chosen by Zach went first in the last episode where we watched Dead Ringer. Basically, how we vote is
plural, by the way, Dead Ringers.
Dead Ringers, excuse me. There are 2 of them. So basically, by the end of this theme, each of us are allotted a base number of 10 points to issue out, with a total number of 3 points to divvy up as we see fit for any reason whatsoever throughout the theme. As of now, Boruff has all 3 of his bonus points to give. Zach only has 1 bonus point to give, and I have 2 bonus points to give. This brings the running total of total points given for the end round at 11 points by the beginning. But we will see how Denis Villeneuve. Thank you.
Villeneuve,
Okay.
I believe.
Villeneuve, I believe. Sure.
Denis Villeneuve.
Yeah,
Denis Villeneuve.
Yeah, right. I thought.
Regardless,
I immediately thought of John Beliveau, but that's just because I'm a fan of hockey.
I believe I am the most charitable, obviously, giver. I also believe that I only have 10 points to my name, whereas everybody else has more than that.
No, I gave you a point last game.
Oh, you did. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
We're all tied up at 11.
Great. So last time we did Dead Ringers, the David Cronenberg film starring Jeremy Irons, but this time we have chosen Denis Villeneuve's 2013 film starring Jake Gyllenhaal and Jake Gyllenhaal called Enemy.
Chosen by our very own Chris Boruff.
Yeah, this is a Chris pick, and it's a classic.
Oh, yes. And it's a pretty Chris pick.
Hey,
You know what? It was blind. It was blind,
a-
but it's still a Chris pick.
Completely a blind pick. I thought it would be a more traditional narrative than what we got. I thought it might be a little wild, but it got a little wilder than I expected. And it is based off Jose Saramago's The Double, which is essentially the same story we've seen in the movie with a slight change at the end, and that is about it. But yeah,
done a previous one of
surrealist.
his. We've done a previously one of blindness. We did an episode of Film Concussion on blindness.
The film Concussion. We don't have time to go into it, but a very old version of this podcast.
Very, very old version of this podcast.
Wow. Okay. But yeah, I just saw it and thought this one looked fun, and we'd give it a shot and see what it was like.
Very briefly, this is, before I go into the detailed plot synopsis, but this is it's basically Kafka's The Metamorphosis feel. That's how it feels watching this movie for the majority of the runtime. But we'll talk briefly about the actual plot synopsis. So, Jake Gyllenhaal plays Adam, a professor of history or history. It is history indeed,
It is
not
history.
political theory. Yeah, it seems like it's political theory for a moment, but it is history.
Every time we see him, he's railing on about totalitarian dictatorships. He's really, really hard on those.
Which is why I was confused. Yeah, he's tough on those totalitarians.
Yeah, right.
You know, those totalitarians, why can't they catch a fucking break?
Right.
I mean,
this is what they're
come
talking
on.
about in those left-wing
Populism.
universities.
It's populism. How can literally millions of people not be right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Regardless, he is a professor in a Canadian college who has a somewhat repetitive life, I would say, at least at the beginning. Like, it seems like he has a very set schedule that they go through a few times. One day, in a blisteringly exciting scene.
One of many in this movie.
His colleague says, you should rent a movie. And so he rents a movie.
Usually when there's an inciting incident, some things happen. In this one, it is literally he manages to find the last existing video rental store in whatever era this movie is supposed to happen in, and rents a movie that someone suggests to him. Yeah.
It feels like 10 years, like he's got a laptop. It looks like a DVD. Maybe 10 years ago, who knows?
Yeah, maybe.
Regardless, he rents this film, and whilst watching it and living out his repetitive life with his girlfriend, which consists of teaching his class, coming home, his girlfriend comes over, they have sex in his completely unadorned apartment where there is literally no, like, there's no art, there's nothing on the walls. It's like
Everything's
single
still in
dad.
boxes.
Yeah, this is recently divorced dad, like, apartment.
Yeah.
He watches this movie one night and discovers that one of the people playing a bellhop in this movie is identical to him. And over the next few days becomes obsessed with this. He looks this man up, finds his name in the credits, figures out that he is a local actor who's appeared in very few things. He goes to the agency that represents him and gets a bit of his mail because he looks identical to them, so they just give it to him. And eventually tracks him down, gives him a call where he connects with this man's 6 months pregnant wife, who initially believes it's just him calling her because they sound so identical. But she eventually becomes disconcerted and realizes something odd is going on.
It plays out in such a way that it's very strange. Most of this film really kind of turns on just the level of dread in every scene. Like, there's nothing actually said that sets anybody off, but there's just scenes where you're like, why is it so uncomfortable? And this phone call is a good example of that, because no one says anything that's really awkward. It's just there are so many awkward pauses that you suddenly get a creeped out feeling, because every time there's a pause, there's generally like a shing or something like that on the soundtrack that makes you go, oh, this is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Anyway, keep going, Zach.
So they... eventually, he calls again and speaks to his double, who was named, what was his, was it Arthur?
Anthony.
Anthony.
Yeah.
Yes, Anthony. Adam and Anthony. And his wife, Helen, who he spoke to previously, isn't sure if it was the guy calling back or a woman he previously had an affair with. So she ultimately hunts down Adam and is clearly shocked at the degree of similarity in their physical appearance. And she comes home sort of out of sorts and unmoored by it. Ultimately, Adam and Anthony do meet in a hotel room, at which point there's kind of a turn where Adam becomes deeply uncomfortable with the entire thing, even though he was originally the one pursuing Anthony. And Anthony is sort of fascinated by it and starts stalking Adam in return. He sees his girlfriend, played by, I can't remember her first name, Sophie Laurent, is that it? The woman from Inglourious Bastards?
Yeah, Laurent is definitely the last name. I can't
Margaret,
vouch for it, but yeah, the girl from Inglourious. Yeah, but definitely from Inglourious Bastards.
Melanie Laurent. Yeah. And the other actress is Sarah Gadon, by the way.
Sarah Gadon. And he becomes immediately infatuated with Adam's girlfriend. And so he concocts this off-the-cuff plan to go to Adam's apartment and falsely accuse him of having slept with his wife, I guess, and saying that we need to become even, so give me your keys and your clothes and I'll take your girlfriend away for the weekend and then we'll be even. So, based on a false accusation and just force of will, like he threatens him pretty heavily physically.
Yeah, it essentially, if you remember the twist in Dead Ringers, it's that kind of happening, but instead of both of them being into it, it seems like one of them is being coerced forcefully by the other one, to a degree.
It's also worth noting... Oh, go ahead.
I was going to compare it to the Princess Switch, but that's just me.
Oh, yeah. Classic Princess Switch. Somewhat dissimilar. One thing that's somewhat dissimilar from the Princess Switch. In this film... At a certain point, these characters start sharing dreams. They have scars that are on identical places in their bodies. And even their mother, played by Isabella Rossellini, mixes up details of their lives at certain points.
Rossellini only in the movie for an afternoon.
Yeah.
That was a day pay, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she made a couple calls and showed up for one day.
That's right, yeah. She made it before lunch.
Well, I mean, it does definitely make me think of the David Lynch connection with this one.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Do you think there's a David Lynch connection to this movie, Boruff? Would you think there's a David Lynch connection?
just a hair.
It becomes increasingly apparent that Anthony is a fucking weirdo. He's had a lot of affairs that were alluded to earlier. The doorman at his building talks about how he wants to go back to this weird sex club they went to, which was shown at the beginning of the film, where a woman masturbated and then maybe killed a tarantula.
Ate a tarantula, masturbated with the tarantula.
It seemed like she was going to step on it.
Yeah. We'll get into the ambiguity of spiders here. There's plenty of time for that.
All the dreams are about spiders in some capacity.
Enormous spiders, one that was the size of a whole city. It's
or a woman
strange.
with the head of a spider at one point.
Yeah.
So, ultimately, this is arranged. Adam relents and allows Anthony to go off with his girlfriend. They go off for a romantic hotel room weekend, but the girlfriend notices while they are having sex that he has the indention of a ring, wedding ring.
It's a sun mark.
On
it's
his
a tan
finger.
line, basically. It seems like, yeah.
On his finger, and becomes suspicious that he is not who he says she is. Meanwhile, Adam has gone to see Helen. And Helen, even though he didn't really advance on her sexually, becomes aware that this is not Anthony and seems to want him to stay regardless because Anthony seems like a piece of shit, I guess. So after the girlfriend discovers the truth, they run back, Anthony and the girlfriend. They are involved in a crash that presumably kills them. Meanwhile, Adam seems to have decided to stay with Helen, Anthony's 6 months pregnant wife, and
evidently take up a new life of being an actor.
Yeah, and after discovering a key that is presumably a members-only key to the sort of weird sex club that was shown at the beginning of the movie and resolving to go visit that club. He's like, honey, I think I might go out tonight. He checks on her in the next room, and she's a big ass, like Lord of the Rings Shelob spider instead of a person now. And that is the conclusion of the film.
Roll credits. Yep.
And his reaction to wandering in the room and finding out that the lady has turned into a giant spider isn't fear, isn't horror, isn't even slight surprise. It's just sort of resigned, like, oh, okay, she's a spider now. This is who I've married. This is who I'm seeing now. She's a spider lady.
I think this movie probably plays better as a book, given the sort of weird spider metaphor that constantly shows up in this dreamscape. And then even more so, I'm unclear of any emotional motivation for any character in this movie. I don't really understand why anybody is doing anything.
Before we get too deep into the, there's numerous things I want to talk about, from performances to the visual aesthetic to the pacing to all of this stuff, the metaphors. I want to ask each of you if you have an opinion of Denis Villeneuve, and if so, what that opinion is.
I've only seen about 2 movies. I've seen Sicario, and I've seen I don't think I've seen Prisoners, which was made a little bit before this. And then I've seen
well, he did Blade Runner 2049.
Never saw that. I still haven't seen that. What was that other one he did with Deakins?
He did Arrival.
I didn't see that one either.
I've seen Arrival. I've seen Sicario.
Incendies,
Blade Runner.
I think.
Haven't
was a
seen
movie.
that one yet.
I don't know.
There was another one. I can't remember what it was called.
Well, I mean, he's done Prisoners, Enemy, Sicario, Arrival, Blade Runner 2049. He's doing the new Dune thing. He's supposedly attached to Cleopatra. There was a movie called Incendies that he did at some point. Maelstrom, Polytechnic, and August 32nd on Earth, all the way back. But those are the only films I've seen that he's done.
Sounds like, Russell, maybe you have seen exclusively Sicario.
Yeah, I think I've seen Sicario and like a bit of Prisoners, if I'm looking at his IMDb page correctly. And I did Sicario because I know he works with Deakins a lot, and I'm a fan of Roger Deakins' cinematography.
Deakins is one of the best cinematographers working, so that's a fair assessment.
Indeed.
I would say Sicario's the first one of his films I saw, I believe. I also saw Arrival. Like, I've seen Arrival, Sicario, Enemy now, Blade Runner 2049. My thoughts on most of his stuff is he tends to do things that are a little slower paced, always visually interesting. Some of the stuff is extremely intense as far as mood goes. I remember Sicario had a lot of really intense, like,
the opening of
sequences.
Sicario is memorable. There's bodies in the walls and things of that nature.
Yeah. I don't know if I've seen enough of him actually
I like Sicario.
dealing...
Sicario is good.
Well, yeah. I'm not sure about some of the emotional stuff. Like, I think I'd need to see him do more. Like, I remember Arrival sort of like... It basically pivoted on the emotional story between the mother and the daughter. They're all interesting. They're all kind of high science fiction things, or high concept films at least, if not science fiction. But honestly, Enemy seems weird in context with his other films. Like, I don't know if you were able to like put it in context, because it seems slow, like really slow, and there's not a lot of stuff that happens. It's a very underplayed, low-key movie. Like most
the movie itself is only about like an hour and 20 minutes.
It's very short.
God, it felt like we were just fucking crawling through this movie. It was like a spelunking trip.
Well, I will briefly say that my personal relationship with Denis Villeneuve is that I kind of, when he first emerged in like the early aughts, I was kind of intrigued. Like, I actually think Arrival is easily his best movie. And I think I've never seen Prisoners. I've heard it's great. Sicario's got some good stuff. And then I kind of didn't care as much as time went on. I know people love Blade Runner 2049. My personal opinion is that movie looks amazing and is fine as an actual, I think Roger Deakins is doing a lot of the heavy lifting in Blade Runner 2049. But I also, controversially, think the original Blade Runner is super overrated. So, take it for what it is.
That's fair.
I agree. I will say I'm nervous about Dune, just because Dune is a notoriously rough film to adapt, and it has ended multiple careers trying to adapt it. So the fact that he is directing, producing, and writing Dune seems...
Yeah, I don't think he's ever written his own movies before, as far as I'm aware. He usually adapts novels.
On Wikipedia, yeah, it's like Incendies. He wrote that one, or he did the adaptations at least. And collaborative writing, but yeah, that's a big movie to jump in and say I'm going to write it as well.
Yeah,
that's tough. I even my limited knowledge of this guy, I like his point of view for Dune. Like you brought up David Lynch, and that's clearly who he's kind of cribbing on in this movie. Is obviously Blue Velvet is right along there, but I compare it more to Mulholland Drive in that it doesn't make any fucking sense.
I was truly shocked by the fact that the guideline for this round was actors in multiple roles. That's it. And I was surprised that I feel like the first two movies were tonally lot more similar than I expected.
Very similar.
Yeah.
I never thought I'd say this, but I think I preferred the Cronenberg film over. I never thought I'd hear those words come out of my mouth.
I did too, but I feel like I have something that's been kind of revealed to me by watching this, and it's that doppelgangers as a thing unto itself are kind of boring. Like the oh my god, he looks like me concept, like in real life it's like, okay, that'd be weird, but you've got a twin, and then considering it beyond that, it's just like as a concept unto itself, it's not that big a deal.
It's pretty dull. It's pretty dull. It's a pretty dull concept to hook you in. That's why I don't understand the emotional motivation behind Adam and then Anthony. Like if I saw some actor who looked like me on some random movie, first of all, I doubt you'd see him in the credits because I don't think he ever says a line, and that's, as I understand it, that's how you get in the credits, is you have to say at least a line. I don't think I would react with this sort of, I don't know, fever of obsession.
This is a common bit. This is a common bit during that time period. There's a couple films where people become obsessed, or books where people become obsessed with someone in films and then look them up. I think Dance 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 did the same thing.
Obviously, this is surrealist. They start to have the same dreams at a certain point. Like, there's shots of them having this dream of a woman with a spider head walking by, and they both wake up. And, so I think there's like a supernatural element. They have the same scar in the same spot. The mother, talks about details of one life interchangeably with another one while saying she only has one son. It seems to me like probably they're different aspects of the same man or something like that. But
possibly.
I don't think, and I think that's to the detriment of the film, that lack of clarification, in contrast to Dead Ringers, where I think that the codependency angle of that movie is genuinely interesting. I find it all a little muddled here.
It does. It's confusing. They give you no hint that Adam Bell is sort of, you get this hint that his life is rather rote at this point. He's following a pattern, and then, he does something outside of the pattern, rents this movie, and sees this guy. And I kind of felt like the breaking of his pattern is what sort of set off this sort of obsession. That's just me. The movie doesn't make that clear for you at all. Doesn't give you a real sense that there's a void in his life other than the way his life is presented that he's trying to fill, and that having some sort of familial connection with a complete stranger is going to fill that void. It just seems like he's pissed off and stalking him. That's just what it seems like.
Yeah,
it seems like this stalking on both sides from Anthony and Adam has like almost a malicious intent when I feel like it would be more curious and not as intense as the way the movie sort of presents it.
Let's actually talk about something here about how the movie is different from the book.
Okay.
You guys, I haven't read it. Have either of you guys read it?
No.
No? Okay. To kind of put this one in context, they changed the ending of this book quite a bit. I haven't read it, but I read the synopsis to kind of see how much of the movie is based off of it. And essentially, I believe most of the movie is based off the book pretty much one for one, except for all the spider stuff. Like, I don't think the spider stuff was in the novel at all. And
all right.
The ending was also supposedly a much tighter ending in the novel or in the book, because it was more of a Twilight Zone style ending, where it's basically the start of the film was, you know, him calling the other guy and going, "Oh, thank God I finally met you," or "finally found you," and then yada yada yada, and they become interchanged. In the book, what happens is that the same thing happens, where they swap places, and then the wife or the girlfriend and then the guy he replaced die, and then he swaps places with that actor, and they essentially are going to have this new life where he's just going to be there. But the last thing in the book is that he gets a phone call, and the guy on the phone sounds just like him, and the guy on the phone says, "Oh my God, I'm so glad I finally found you." And then the guy our main protagonist at that point goes and loads a gun to meet the guy at the park. And that's the end of the story.
I would almost prefer that to what this movie was. That level of kind of strange ambiguity, the Twilight Zone, that does sound like a Twilight Zone ending. I'd almost prefer that to the shock of the spider being there and then roll credits.
All right, so let's. If I'm being frank, my interpretation of this movie is as follows. There is the person you are and the person that you will become, and at some point those two personalities meet, and one of them eventually bears out to become the future. This guy is Anthony or whatever, is a weird pervert who goes to weird sex clubs and clearly has affairs all the time. Maybe he has affairs with this woman in his fucking second apartment where there's no art on the walls, and you know, he has to become a more supportive person for his actual, you know, girlfriend/wife. Like, this is my best guess for what this is.
Sure.
And he also views her as a spider who sucks the fun out of his life, and he can't escape that. Because there's this idea of repeating errant behavior. Like, when he's in his class, he's like, things repeat in history. Totalitarian or dictatorial countries have the same patterns, and these patterns always repeat, and they repeat, and, you know, the first time it's tragedy, and the second time it's farce, and all this Marx shit. I think it's just about, yeah, like, this guy is a guy who has an affair, and he's rectifying the part of him that's a good husband with the part of him that's a creepy-ass pervert. And that's my best read on this movie.
Your guess is as good as mine. I
mean, where does the totalitarianism fit in then?
I think it's because immediately after destroying or getting rid of Anthony, he goes back to, I guess, the woman who is both of their wives, and sees her again as a spider. And that's why he's resigned at the end, because he knows he's still not going to be happy with her, even though he got over this affair.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably a perfectly acceptable read based off what I saw. I mean, it's all surrealist. It's a little weird, I'll be honest. I didn't really like this one because of that. It was... Yeah, I love surrealism, but this was to the point where I didn't get the point.
You're getting my point for this
it's
one.
Also, I'm going to be honest with you, my man. I found this movie mostly pretty boring.
Pretty boring. My God. Jesus. Yeah. A lot of this movie is slow camera movements creeping around corners.
This is a less than 90-minute movie where it takes 15 minutes to get to the inciting event of renting a movie at a VHS store. Like, my man, you got to move it a little faster.
And it's these long pregnant pauses, especially when Adam is pretending to be Anthony and like cuddles up with the pregnant wife. And, just this kind of long second of just sort of her looking at it. And you're just like, okay, this is supposed to be the climax, right? We're getting to the vamping action here. That's why the hook of this movie is too dull to drag me through a very odd-paced, walk in the park. To only end with this sort of like, well, it's anybody's guess.
I have to say, it's a blessing that this movie is under 90 minutes, because there is a version of this movie where whoever made it is so involved in their own shit that it's like 2 hours and 30 minutes. And
that's true. I mean, like, there are some good moments in this movie. I sort of, there's the way the film is color corrected, I think, is very odd. There's
yellow,
dirty yellow, this urine feel to it. Except at one point where he has the inciting incident, I guess, of dreaming about the movie that he just watched, and then it's very jarring into like this bright white, and everything's all perfectly color corrected and everything. And they never go back to that motif. Even with the dream with the mom, they never cut back to that kind of motif. They just sort of abandon it. So I just took it, but there are some good cuts in this movie that I quite liked.
It seemed like they were obsessed. They were really obsessed with the visuals. Like you were talking about it, like the only time the characters really did something where I was like, "Ooh, that's interesting," was like when they do the swap and then he's over there with the wife. The fact that
we're calling it the princess switch, by the way.
Yeah, this is the princess switch. Where the princess switch happens, it's strange because she then accepts him even though he's not her husband. So that's a character turn where you're like, ooh, that's an interesting place to go. But it's in the last 5 minutes of the movie and they do nothing with it. They're like, oh, wouldn't that be a cool movie to see? But we don't get that movie. We get the movie with the giant dancing spider
cowering in the corner. It's obnoxious because you get the sense early on with this movie that this movie is going to sort of just happen to you and just break. And I know how to sort of just white knuckle my way through this movie and hope to God there's a payoff, because that's, like I said, I did that for Blue Velvet. It worked out pretty good. I did it for Mulholland Drive. Did not work out at all.
Go ahead.
And Lost Highway too, and Twin Peaks. I think
the return. The return. I'm going to go on the record and offend many of our listeners and say that shit did not need to be 18 fucking episodes, my man. We could trim it down.
No, it did not.
Yeah.
I know if you're a pretentious movie Twitter person, you're like, it's the best film of the past decade. My man, no, I'm sorry.
Let me ask you guys a question here, because I've noticed, like I was saying, how the concept of a doppelganger is kind of dull. I've noticed that they have a lot of flips on it where they try to make it interesting in this, where the characters have such different personalities. But I realized while watching this that all those like Freaky Friday and personality body swap movies all have a similar thing to this, where it's like, oh, here's my personality in a brand new weired body. So it's all fish out of water and
Freaky
strange.
Friday, they're mother-daughter, so at least that kind of tracks.
I'm going to go out on a limb to say that there is eventually a point in the movie where you get a more distinctive difference in their personalities. At the beginning, it took me a while to get to that point where I like really saw the difference. It's not like last week's film Dead Ringers, where like for me Bev and Elliot were distinct characters basically instantaneously. Adam and Anthony, they took their fucking sweet time getting to the point where I was like, what's the difference between these two? Personally, anyway. I don't think this is the same tour de force that Jeremy Irons gives in Dead Ringers. Even if you don't like that movie, I think he does a great job in it. And Gyllenhaal's fine, but he's not great.
Yeah, I think Gyllenhaal did better. He's done better in other films. Like this one, the characters were not that far off from one another. I think if he'd had something like how he acted in Night Stalker, like if one of the guys were that different, I think it would have been a lot more electric. In this, it's just like one guy's slightly introverted and the other guy kind of yells a lot, and that's about the only difference I could tell.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
and even that takes a while to actually like manifest.
It takes a long time. I mean, it you know, at the beginning of the movie where he first reaches out to Anthony.
Just very quickly,
Sure.
So we avoid the clarifications and the Twitter mentions we won't get. It is called Nightcrawler, not Night Stalker.
Oh, yep.
Oh, right.
Sorry.
Okay, gotcha. Nightcrawler.
But go ahead, Russell. I'm sorry.
But no, I think that, you know, at the beginning of the movie, like I said, it's the emotional motivation of the characters that really get lost on me and really make me struggle to get through this movie because, you know, not even the two Gyllenhaal characters of Anthony and Adam, but the pregnant wife, she like goes on a little field trip to seek out Adam independent of Anthony, and they have like a little brief exchange and nothing seems to happen. And there's a lot of turmoil emotionally for her over that. And I don't really understand why. Much like when Anthony is stalking the girlfriend on the train, there's this kind of, like I said, you know that this is like malicious intent, and I don't understand the motivation behind it, and it doesn't really give you any hint as to what it actually is.
Yeah, I agree. It's you just kind of get a general sense
you could do
of
a weird
dis-ease.
movie. You
but
could
that's
do
about
a
it.
weird movie like this that has an ambiguous ending that
Yeah,
that at least if you have an emotional hook for the character, something that I can relate to, it's a lot easier to tread those waters. And this movie does not do that.
I'll say, yeah, I think that obviously I assume that the name Adam is meant to be like the original man, and then Anthony is not that. I also wondered while I was watching this movie, this is probably a step too far, but hey, maybe in the novel this is more involved. I know, like, Anthony's last name is very clearly Claire, and that just reminds me of Claire Quilty from Lolita, who's like a dark version of Humbert Humbert, even though Humbert Humbert is like, I don't know, he's the aspects of Humbert Humbert that he's pretending he doesn't have. So part of me wonders if this is, yeah, that's part of the reason why I'm like, maybe this is just like, this is this guy's dark side. He was the original man, Adam. Anthony, Claire is his horrible, horrible impulses that he wants to bury and is struggling to do so.
Yeah, and I think as a novel, when you have the prose to carry you through, it'd probably be a lot more enjoyable of experience. But when you're just watching people meander down hallways while the camera is just slowly dolling around a corner, and I will say, you can tell this movie's pretty low budget, but it looks very high budget.
The names were really different in the book, because the book is actually it's from Spain, so I think the like original name was like Tertuliano Maximo Afonso was the main character.
Well, Tertuliano,
you never get that to play in America.
Tertuliano is clearly a reference to tarantula, so that makes sense.
Yeah. Maybe.
I mean,
well,
not
Antonio Claro. Antonio Claro
sure
is the last name. Antonio Claro is the last name. But as the Wikipedia article pointed out, I will make this general mention: the giant creepy spider thing is potentially based off Louis Borges's sculpture Maman, which is mother. It's a giant spider. It's the spider you see in the movie, but it's
I think that's in Canada, right?
It's a modern art sculpture, yeah. So yeah, but I don't know if it was actually in the book.
Another fun coincidence between this and the last movie is these both take place in Canada.
In Toronto. You betcha.
Yeah,
Both shot in Toronto.
I saw the Marilyn Monroe Towers in one of the scenes.
They do a lot of there's a lot of cool shots of the topography of like Toronto, where like all these X buildings and Z buildings, you know, and a lot of strange architecture there. They do a good job of highlighting that, and then they throw a giant spider in there. I don't know.
So just to generally bring this up real quick, just because it was a weird piece of trivia, you know how those there's often movies that come out near the same time. Like you'll have your Leviathans to the Abysses and things like that. This one, for some reason, had another film come out right around the same time that was another doppelganger movie. This movie, were you guys familiar with The Double, the Richard Ayoade
that was gonna be my
directed?
choice. I'm kidding. That was a joke.
I was going to say, if we
I'm
get
kidding. That was a joke. That was a joke.
almost identically themed movies on the extremely broad category. It goes
before. It's
It
happened
has.
before.
But like, I think Russell, like, it's your opportunity to bring a little variety to this fucking scene.
And I know how to bring the game. But anyway, why I
Give us an Eddie Murphy movie where he plays the whole fucking family.
Right? Yeah, we have it. Yeah, you know it's coming. Or Jack Black, or whoever, or some Adam Sandler movie. But I also think that I also think concurrently this movie was right around the same time as Prisoners with Gyllenhaal and Hugh Jackman, I believe. So I think he made this back to back too. So
I just realized, I think Russell wants to win because he hasn't won yet. But if he didn't want to win, you could have picked. You could have just been like. You could have been like Jack and Jill. We are watching Jack and Jill.
Man. No, yeah. If I really wanted to bring the pain, and believe me, that instinct is but we'll get to that. Don't we worry, buddy. We'll
Sorry,
have all
I
the
didn't
time
mean
in the
to
world for that. But no, and that's why I will give this movie credit, and this is where I'm at least confident with this director's point of view and style of how he tells the story. Is like you said, you could tell it's very low budget. There's not a lot of set design. There's not, but it's still shot pretty sleek. You know, it still looks like a pretty high budget movie. So I give him credit. So that says a lot. When you could do more with less. That's pretty good, but I think he did too much.
I think he has a good eye. I think he has a sensibility and an eye.
I think he does better work.
Needs to. He's one of those directors that feels to me like one of the ones that needs to be controlled by other creative forces, because I doubt on his own he's great. I'll bet he's a little too up his own ass.
Well, this movie's certainly evidence of that, in my opinion.
The fact that he wrote the Dune screenplay actually makes me less excited to see it, because obviously with like Arrival, which I think is his best movie, and Sicario, like there's different writers and they're based on books, and obviously Dune is too, but somebody else adapted them.
Right, trying to adapt Frank Herbert,
and obviously
word for word, you don't want to do that.
This dude has used Roger Deakins for like all of his best movies, and like that guy is fucking good at what he does. He's the John Williams of cinematography. So
I completely agree. Yeah, and that's why and even so, even this film has some sort of Deakins like moments. Like when I looked it up, and if I saw that Roger Deakins had shot this movie, I wouldn't be the most surprised in the world. Because it is shot pretty well, and it's got a definite tone to it that adds to the aesthetic of, you know, everything's kind of dirty and everything's just kind of rotten. So that's pretty cool. But like I said, I felt like they were going to do something with a motif and then just completely abandoned it. I hate movies like this. I really fucking do. That movies that make me work so hard to watch it, and then the ending is like, well, good luck. I hope you enjoyed it. Go, please read my 5-page dissertation on spiders. It just drives me fucking up the wall.
Yeah, I mean, is that, would you call that your final thoughts on this one?
Yeah, like I fucking hate movies like this. You know, I'll say, like, I appreciate the throwbacks to Kubrick and Lynch. Like, there's obviously throwbacks, and even a little bit of Hitchcock with the sort of, like, emotional malaise of Strocking, if there is any emotion in this movie. But I think it shows more promise than brilliance out of Villeneuve. It shows more potential than kinetic. As far as talent is concerned. So I didn't care for it.
So we have 6 minutes before it cancels out. What I'm going to suggest is we don't stop recording. We just start the meeting again if it cancels out, and I will keep the screen recording and not stop anything.
Okay. Sounds great.
So I guess let's go with your final thoughts. Zach? Or do you want me to just ram through mine?
Sure, I can go with my final thoughts. Yeah, this is a incomplete movie. Like, I don't know. There's something in it that just doesn't. It's one of those movies that's less than 90 minutes, and man, it's slow. Like, there's so many scenes that it's like, this doesn't need to drag this much. Like, I was willing to forgive it early in the film when they were trying to show how monotonous this guy's life was, but then that was the entire movie.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, it's super weird because you watch a movie like Mandy where the storyline itself doesn't have that much going on. This one has tons going on, but it just seems like nothing's happening in any scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a failed, but ambitious movie. I understand, like, Villeneuve, I've seen other stuff he's done that's great. I think that this was just too navel-gazing. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen. There's real, like, artistic talent buried somewhere in the leaves here. Like, if you sift through, you see these moments of really good stuff. But it just, I think it's a misfire from people with some degree of skill and good intention. And that's ultimately all it is, in my opinion. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
I completely agree. You tried for Blue Velvet, you ended up with Mulholland Drive.
Yeah. For me, I went into it kind of open to the fact it might be surrealist. It might be a little strange. Normally, I'm fine with those, but man, it's got to move faster than this one did. And it's also like the surrealism in this didn't really work for me because it seemed like arbitrary, basically. Like when all the stuff involving the spiders showed up, it didn't feel like it was influenced by anything. It didn't feel like it was inspired by anything. It didn't seem like it came from anything in the characters. So to me, when I see that happen in a movie, it's usually like someone's just making shit up as they go along because they didn't know how to end it. And that's what it felt like to me. Like they didn't know how to end it. And they were like, well, let's just have a giant spider because I love spiders.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Yeah.
And frankly, the spider theme, like even whatever it was meant to symbolize, like a leech or a predator or something, I don't know why it was spiders. I don't really get why spider was the choice.
I don't really care. That's the problem. I don't give a fuck. When you just throw it in there, like Boruff said, like you without any previous motivation for it, other than that weird sex thing right at the beginning, which you also don't get much of an explanation of. You're just like, well, where did that fucking come from? I don't know. Sure.
Well, so there we have it. We have two movies that we have in this round that are surprisingly similar. I think we're on the consensus that I think Dead Ringers is a more successful film, but not necessarily a great film.
Sure.
But that leaves,
Well, let me do a
perennial
rundown.
Loser Russell.
Right, yeah. Let me
You're wide open for a victory here. Don't pick Jack and Jill, and you could
before
make
I
this work.
open up the threshing maw of the final movie trap of Russell's choice. Let me just get a quick rundown of the points because points were awarded this theme. I did give Boruff a point for not liking this movie. Good for you, buddy. Very proud of you. And that's it. So that's all the points that were issued. So Boruff now has 12 points. Zach and I have 11 points to give in the final round, which will be.
And I believe I have one left to give. Russell has one left to give.
I have 1 point, and Chris
I
has
got
all three.
3 points to give. You guys gonna
fucking Ebenezer ass Scrooge over here.
Yeah,
hey, I like to make it rain. I'm waiting for my moment.
Or he just likes to be sparse, like his movie choice. To just be sparse with any sort of points awarded. So I'm not gonna lie, guys. I thought a lot about what to choose on this one.
You are going to get cut off before we finish.
Okay.
1 minute and 40 seconds.
I'll be quick.
Oh, it says less than a minute to me. Okay. Sorry.
Okay, so basically, I was going to go with the Princess Switch, but we've already talked about that. I'm kidding. No, I'm going with the chalk pick. I'm going Dr. Strangelove. Going with the basic bitch pick of Dr. Strangelove because I'm tired of movies about twins. I want to see something good that's makes me chuckle, makes me laugh, and is an instant classic that if I don't win this round, I don't know what the hell is wrong with both of your diseased fucking
I appreciate that.
Shannon has never seen Doctor Strangelove. I love
Fantastic.
it. And I'm more than happy to show it to her for the first time.
Trap her in
Fucking
it,
don't act outraged, Chris. You've never seen It's a Wonderful Life. Like, what the fuck? Don't act like you're above it.
That's right. All the President's Men. Any Warren Beatty movie.
Yeah, I guess that we can't see every single movie possible. I know. It was still shocking to find out someone hadn't seen that one. I'll see It's a Wonderful Life someday. I'll see all these movies you guys keep freaking out that I haven't seen, like Black Christmas or It's a Wonderful Life.
Eventually, Black Christmas, It's a Wonderful Life, like, these are on my, like, if I have a hit list to force you guys to watch certain movies, those are both on mine for you specifically, Chris. Even if it's the middle of fucking July, I'm going to be like, yeah, we can do a Black Christmas. It seems like Black Christmas or It's a Wonderful Life would be...
See, I've known Boruff a long time. It doesn't shock me when he hasn't seen movies that most people, especially in the film school world, would consider classics. That doesn't shock me. Black Christmas shocked. That surprises the fuck out of me because that is... we brought this up in the Christmas episode, but I'm still, to this day... That
I
is
thought
such
you were
a
on the
you
same
movie,
page as me.
It's not even funny.
I think that Black Christmas is like maybe the best slasher movie ever made. And when I've heard you talk about it before, and I was like, oh, Chris agrees with me on this topic. No, you've never seen it. That's
no, I've
amazing.
never seen it. I know that it's well known. I know that people pay attention to it. I just hadn't seen it yet. The only one that I've seen has been the remake, which was real bad, and I saw it because I got dragged to it.
It's shit.
But yeah,
it's shit.
Yeah.
Chris.
Yeah.
Chris, you've discovered shit.
Well, I
and then he makes us watch it like Border or Enemy. I think that
Border was much better than this movie.
I agree. I guess I agree. Yeah, at least with Border, like, I understood them as there's an emotional relatability to all the characters, even the bad guys. In this one, you're basically supposed to just watch them, and the spider shows up and eats everybody, I guess. But to do something classic like Doctor Strangelove, I know you, all three of us have seen this movie. It's one of our favorite movies. So I'm pitching to win. If you haven't noticed,
if I were taking odds in Vegas, I know who I would be betting on to be cruising towards the win for this round. Personally,
that's my goddamn hope.
I mean, that's because you went with the safety. You were the last one to go.
You
chose to be the last one.
I know.
And we could have chosen the big boys, but you chose the big boy. You played the game.
It's a risky pick.
I did.
I chose something I saw when I was 16. Haven't seen in about half my life. I actually still have a lot of fondness for that movie, to be fair. But Chris, you went blind.
It's a real Queen's Gambit you pulled on us, Carlson. I don't even know if that reference works correctly, but yeah,
it doesn't. I don't know what you're talking about. No, I mean, now we're going to see a movie actually directed by Stanley Kubrick rather than Enemy, which was just kind of cribbing off of Stanley Kubrick and David Lynch.
And David Cronenberg, I would say.
And Cronenberg, you got to say it, don't you? I mean, even the whole Siamese twin thing, which they don't really say, but kind of imply. But yeah, so Dr. Strangelove, that's what we'll be doing to finish out the theme of actors in multiple one or more roles. Obviously, famously, Peter Sellers plays 3 characters in this, almost 4. And yeah, and he's very famous. It's a very famous movie. And it's been a minute since I've watched it, so I think I'll enjoy going through it again.
Possibly the second oldest movie we've covered on this show. So
I believe so. Yeah, I believe so. Cool. Alrighty, gents. Well, I guess we'll strap it onto our dropping bombs and blow up for the next episode of the Movie Trap.
As for you listeners, if you're listening to this day of release, I think this is our first episode where theoretically there's a Biden administration, so Mazel Tov.
Yeah, it's hopefully a vaccine has started to circulate.
Well, don't go too overboard.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, yeah, right.
I'm just hoping things are generally better. Hopefully, it's a nice future. I'm happy for a future where we can at least have some stability. It's going to be great.
We all hope for it, Boruff, but in the end, it's just a giant spider in a room.
No. At the end of your life, that's,
that's
it's an inevitability. We all know it. You're going to end up with a spider. The talking heads said it best. How did I get this beautiful house? How did I get this beautiful wife? It turned out it was a giant spider in the corner.
That's right. Alrighty. Well, I guess on that note, gentlemen, I guess I will see you guys next time. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. Please try to find us on everywhere where you can find your podcasts. We're on Spotify, Apple, Stitcher,
you know what?
Twitter.
Let's chill a little bit. If you like the show, you know what? Leave a review on iTunes, especially a written one, because that increases popularity. Yeah. And So, and we're also on YouTube sporadically, where you can see our lovely mugs. Let me suggest that what your review is this. This podcast is when you realize your life is there's a giant spider in your bedroom. And you can leave that as long as you write 5 stars. I don't give a fuck what you write.
I was hoping somebody would leave a long comment on a diatribe about the JFK assassination for you there, Zach. I keep waiting for it to no, man, you haven't looked at this website or this website or this website. Or as I call it, my relatives.
Yeah, our most recent YouTube video had a whole thing about the JFK assassination that I think a crazy person had typed up. It was an interesting comment I could not figure out.
Did I talk about the JFK assassination last time?
Oh, that's only how much you love it.
Well, it was Parallax View. It was what we did last time
during the
listeners.
Parallax View. That was months ago.
Yeah. Yes, it was months ago. However, for some of the people on YouTube, it just happened, and they just started making comments now. So it was a very strange... I'll probably cut this out, but I'll show you guys the link, because it's really weird.
I just don't know how I would have roped dead ringers into the JFK assassination.
That would have been
tough. Did I do that?
That would have been tough.
Am I going...
Well, I mean, unless
do I have early onset Alzheimer's?
Was a twin. RFK was a twin, and they killed the twin, you see. And RFK is safely stashed away by Q, and is just waiting for Donald Trump to get in front of the Supreme Court where he can reveal the evidence of all Pizzagate and the Democratic Communist pedophile ring. Anyway.
And they're all spiders.
That's right. Alrighty. On that note, this has been a lot of fun. I'll sign off by saying thanks for listening, and my name is Russell Carlson.
My name is Zach Powers.
And I will say my name's Chris Boruff, and I will say it was a lot of fun with you guys, but fuck this movie. See ya all when I can smell ya.
Indeed.
See you next time.
Alan, did you plan on doing something tonight? Because I think I have to go out. Helen? Helen?